Back from the dead.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. It is yours truly, Krystal Leandra with the Ghost Girl Diaries podcast. Sorry we had some technical difficulties today. Full moon energies, man. You know, like sometimes you can't control what's going on. In fact, we're not live on Facebook today. Usually we are. Streamlabs, which is the company that I go through, it's like an external site that allows you to stream to multiple places at once. Like literally it was like shutting down over and over again, and it was like, no, you will not go live today. Like literally. So I'm sorry for the inconvenience. This happens every once in a while. I would say like once every 6 months. I don't know if any of you guys out there like use Twitch for like streaming purposes, but I don't know why Twitch does this. Like every 30 days, they will like reset all of my auto sets. I don't know why. It pisses me off because like sometimes you'll go like 6 weeks and it's totally fine and there's like no issues. And then one day like today you just log in and everything has like been reset. And I'm like, great, it's fine, you know? But then today, you know, every once in a while we get these super rare instances where I can't even go live. Like it literally won't even let me go live. So I've been sitting here trying to go live for like a hot minute. So anyway, I just wanted to come on with Eilfie today. I think her camera just went out, so I'm gonna need just a minute to get her back on live. She dropped her iPad earlier and she was worried she wasn't gonna be able to use it. Eilfie, your camera went off. I don't know if you know that. It's fine. I'll let you mess with it for a minute. If you have to like end the call and call back, we can do that too. So anyway, guys, welcome to the stream today. Today's going to be a good chat with Eilfie and I. It's going to be a little bit more of like a true crime podcast. I made a mistake talking about BTK today. I actually originally wanted to do a chat about Robert Verdella. So I'm going to like talk about him briefly in this stream as well. There was a couple weeks ago, Eilfie and I were streaming, and I was somebody in the Twitch channel asked me what I thought was like the darkest room inside of the Haunted Museum in Vegas. And I said BTK. I was wrong. I get BTK and Robert Burdell mixed up all the time because they're both from Kansas City. The Robert Burdell, he was the Kansas City Axeman or whatever he was. I can't remember what his like his weird title was as like a serial killer. But anyway, there's implements and items from Robert Verdella, and that room is like horribly dark. So I'm going to talk about that too. Talk about that a little bit later. First, I want to kind of chat about BTK. One thing, just some housekeeping stuff I want to chat about really briefly is people are asking about the pilot. I've had, you guys, I love you guys, honestly. I have had the most amazing feedback, not only on like YouTube comments, but I've had so many people tweeting at Kat and I both, and tweeting at Ghost Girl Diaries, and private DMs, direct messages on like Instagram. I have gotten the most amazing like love and feedback from you guys on the sizzle reel. I did post the trailer, which is like a short version, and then the sizzle reel is like a mini pilot. It's only like 5 minutes long. People are asking, when is the pilot coming out? I have finally made a decision. I don't know why I added that little like on the end. I finally made a decision how I'm going to release it online, and I'm going to do an actual like mini video and post that on YouTube. Probably, I think the video will be up tomorrow. It'll be a small video, and talk about how I'm going to release the pilot. It will be released on YouTube, but not the conventional sort of way. So, anyway, in the meantime, where's my Eilfie at? Where's my girl Eilfie at? Is Eilfie in the house?
I should be here. Hopefully it's all working now.
It must be the full moon, because like Eilfie had an issue with her iPad, and then I was I was like ready to go. I was like, just take your time, Eilfie. And then all of a sudden my stream was like, no, actually, you're not ready to go, by the way. And go ahead. Okay, she threw, or your iPad fell off of like, you had like a spring holder for your iPad, and she said it broke right before the stream.
I have an armature for it. I really like it. And like I set everything up and I walk away to get coffee. I come back in and it's like, luckily it didn't fall far. It fell on the table. But I'm like, are you kidding me?
Are you kidding? It's true. I'm telling you, it's the new moon, man, or the full moon energies. It feels good today. It's been a good day. So are you excited about BTK? We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we were both watching like interviews of BTK. I watched interviews of his kids. What's your like first like impression of just BTK as like a person? Which, by the way, his official name, that's his serial killer name. His official name is Lynn Rader. If you guys haven't heard of BTK, he was a big serial killer. We'll get more into depth on this. What's your opinion on just him as a person?
I mean, I think in some ways, like, you look at him, he's probably like the essential like serial killer everyone thinks about as the next door guy. I mean, I looked at him and it's like, he looks like he could have been one of my like substitute teachers, or like I got gym teacher vibe, or like
I did too. I felt that way, yeah. Like his glasses.
Mm-hmm. And just like dude next door. And it's like, it's not even a matter of like he was so quiet. It was more like he just doesn't. At least I have no desire to ever like stand anywhere near him, but at least through the photos, he doesn't really put off a vibe of like the prison photos, yes, but like regular photos and stuff. When you see like him in like every day, it's not exactly a creep vibe. It's more like he just kind of fades into the background vibe.
It's true, because like you look at pictures, just pictures of Richard Ramirez, even photos when he's not like in court, and you just like can see in his eyes like that saying like the eyes are the window of the soul, and you look in Richard Ramirez's eyes and you just know something's not right there. And BTK does have that vibe of like, now Ted Bundy has that vibe too, but like when he gets crazy, you can see the crazy in his eyes, you know what I mean? But like you can see where like they would put on a total like front versus other people. Like even I don't know, in my opinion, John Wayne Gacy doesn't really pass somebody that I would just trust on the street. You know what I mean? Like he's not one I would be like, oh, I trust you. Like I would say BTK somebody where I just like, that's just some dude walking by. Same with Ted Bundy. But
he honestly looked like someone like you would pass by like Home Depot or something as he's getting his tools or whatever, and you wouldn't think twice of, oh, he's just doing home repair.
He's just doing home repair.
No, serious, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So
probably if I stood in front of him and had a conversation, I'd be like, okay, something's not quite right. I don't know what.
So he was born in March 9th of 1945. I'd love to do Zodiac on all this stuff. Like I've talked to you, I think I'm going to do some Zodiac astrology readings on them for future YouTube readings, just because I think it'd be interesting. But March 9th is obviously Pisces season. Pisces are waters, water signs. They're known for being more muted, go with the flow type of people. But he was born in a small town, near sort of like Kansas City, Missouri. My mom grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm familiar with Kansas City, Missouri. I know that like it is the Midwest, but it's still it still has somewhat like southern vibes, I guess you could say. Which is everybody leaves their door open. Everybody trusts everybody. It's like safe. And that's why I always get him and Robert Verdella mixed up, because they both came from like that same Midwestern sort of area, But with BT, go ahead.
Chill and everything, that every neighbor knows every neighbor's what's going on with them.
Exactly.
Everything.
Well, like there were even interviews that I was looking through of like people that were literally his neighbor, talking about like they would have never suspected this happening, because like they've known him and his family like their whole life, and like he never gave like those. And then you have other neighbors that when he became an adult, they would spy on him, and they would see him wearing women's clothes because he had these like weird rape fantasies, weird fantasy things happening, and they would actually report it to police. So it's interesting, as a child, he was viewed pretty normal. And I actually dug into some of his past, and because he has 3 other brothers, I believe. And I was looking up like information on the brothers to see like, was there like torture that happened? You know, like usually when you have, I wouldn't say always, but I would say most of the time. No, go ahead, Eilfie.
Oh, I was going to say, like, if there's like family history, either like they had something when they grew up, or if something happened to them as well.
Usually there's abuse that runs down the line, and I was reading about the other brothers, and like nothing happened. Like they were very much just a southern Midwest family, normal, and like nothing to be alarmed by. And in fact, there is one brother that still does interviews once in a while about BTK, his brother, and there's one brother that is still to this day in utter denial that his brother like did all of these like horrible killings. I'm gonna be honest, when I started researching BTK, I didn't realize that he had killed 2 kids.
Oh yeah, they were like his first too.
Yeah, it was a family. It was a little boy and a girl that was like 9 or 11 or something. I am shocked.
That's pretty big, because like normally when you read about serial killers, it's like it's by chance, or it's something small, like a little thing they do. They either like kill one person, and it's usually by just they almost testing the waters. But this one, he broke into a house and he went for the whole family.
He did. And like, there's 2 things that I'm noticing though, like with this. One is they always go through open windows and doors. Are you picking up on that with serial killers? Lock your damn doors, people.
Breaking in, or with his, what's interesting is he just knocked on their door, and even in his interviews or his court thing, he was talking about how he liked to role play like characters, like telephone people or electric people, or someone to get into the house essentially. Mm-hmm. And he really did utilize that whole I don't look intimidating thing. I think he really used that to his advantage.
He did. Well, the first house he broke into, one of the kids let him in, because once again, you're talking about, he was about 20 when this happened, the first family, and then he sort of went dormant for about a decade. So this was like in the 60s was the first family. And he knocked on the door, and one of the kids, it was a mom, a dad, 2 kids that living at home. One of the kids let him in. He had a pistol. He walks in. He binds the whole family up, and like he like drug it out. So now you watched this interview, right, from court? Mm-hmm. So this interview Eilfie and I watched, and I'm pretty sure I posted it on social media in a few different places. He's essentially, I don't want to say he's bragging, because he's not really bragging. He's in court. He's admitting to his crimes, and he is so like nonchalant. Mm-hmm. Like the judge is like, so tell me what you did, sir, you know? And he's like, well, and he does this like that mouth thing, well, you know? Like, I mean, he's a little ashamed, but not really, you know?
Well, it was like, I listened to the audios of the court case thing, and it's like, I think I was like replaying it and everything. It's almost like he's just telling about the weather, or like I did this thing on this weekend, and just giving a report and not really putting much emotion into it. Like you normally think like someone's going to be like rubbing their hands, go, yes, and I did this, and then I did this. He's like, no, I bind them up, and I did this, and this didn't work, so I tried this. Just nonchalant.
And then he was like, yeah, they were complaining about, you know, it hurt that I had them bound, and so I loosened the restraints a little bit. And another thing that I've noticed with serial killers is, I mean, they always say they watch their victims for like a while before they make their move. Mm-hmm. And they always say they pick weak people on purpose. People that like aren't paying attention to their surroundings. And a lot of people, I'm not saying all victims of serial killers or survivors of serial killers, but a lot of them don't fight back. And I feel like that is proof. Like there are 2 adults in the house and your children. While he was tying up one of them, the other should have like grabbed a knife or something. I don't know. Like, I would go out even being shot, at least knowing I was going out, like, trying. You know what I mean?
Well, I think what with that one, it was also he came in. I think that was the one where he role played that he was a escaped criminal and he was just trying to get a car or food or something, and he played up where he was just telling them, I'm just going to tie you up or bind you up, and then I'm going to grab the car and grab the food and go, and just like try to play it off like, I'm not going to do anything else as long as you cooperate with me, we're just going to tie you up. But it's still strange to me that two adults weren't able to overcome him or something, or he was able to do that. And also the fact that I think the dad was the one who had a bruised rib that he actually adjusted and put padding underneath because the guy had a bruised rib.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, the guy had like busted ribs, so I kind of adjusted so he was more comfortable. Like,
I know, that was so weird.
But I think it was him trying to. A lot of them, he would always say, I'm just going to tie you up and do this. He would just make sound like, we're just going to do this and then I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes the full extra mile.
Yeah, he's in this. If you guys get a chance even to watch like 10 minutes of the interview, or like scroll in halfway or something just to watch a little bit. But he's like, yeah, you know, he had bruised ribs and like he was uncomfortable. And so, you know, I wanted to make him more comfortable. And I'm like, why? You're going to kill him. Why? Like, now you feel bad because he feels uncomfortable. You know what I mean? What?
I don't, yeah, because like you can tell he doesn't have empathy for people.
Mm.
But it's I don't know if this is just part of his like, well, I'm supposed to react like this because the person is hurting like this, just kind of reacting and not necessarily thinking actually I have any care for this person. It's more like, oh, I have bruised ribs, okay, we'll just do this then.
Right. It's very strange. It's very strange. And I'm sorry, I think they actually had more children, because it says in the list that I sent you, there were 3 other kids that were the ones that actually found the family that was murdered. So it was a bigger family that I thought.
Yeah, I think it is. And then I think a 15-year-old came home the next day and found them, and was the one who found them and whatnot.
It's a mess. So, you know, going back to his childhood briefly, I was trying to dig up, like Eilfie said, most of the time when you have people that, like, don't mind causing pain, inflicting pain, murdering people, like, no empathy, no heart, like, whatsoever, usually they've suffered from, like, a really bad, like, maybe molestation, maybe, who knows what's happening. And so I looked into it, and he was just kind of a bad egg, in my opinion. His brothers came out normal, and he always had, like, rape fantasies of weird things, role-playing, and he started by people like stray animals, and that makes me sick. I hate that. I mean, I hate people being murdered, too, but I hate animal torture.
I was listening to something when they started that, and I had to fast forward and nope.
I can't.
I know
Yep. I cannot listen to somebody on the stand talking about how they murdered a cat or a dog. I can listen to people being murdered, but I can't listen to the animal torture, you know?
Yeah, I just...
I can't. I know, it's sick. What's wrong with you, man?
I don't know. I was listening even to a podcast. They're like, yeah, he started his childhood and everything. And I'm like, fast forward, because I know where this is going. I don't need to listen.
No, I didn't even want to read about the details of it, honestly, because it's just like, you need a lot of Jesus. Like, so much Jesus that, like, I don't think there's enough Jesus on this planet to help you. You know what I mean?
What's even weirder is that I think at his closing statement, which was apparently a very long closing statement, he even mentioned, like, oh, yeah, I love animals. I even have some pets of my own. And I'm like, what?
I know.
What? No.
So now it's interesting because when I was listening to some of his, discussion, because I kind of fast forward it like you did, because he honestly, serial killers make me want to throw up. I mean, it's weird because for as much as I want to be involved in paranormal and I love true crime, when I'm hearing about them boast about their stories and what they did to humans and animals, it literally makes me my empath is dying on the inside. You know what I mean?
What was strange was, I think he even mentioned, so the only thing he mentions of any trauma of a child is, he's like, I think I might have been dropped on my head as a kid.
I would agree with that statement.
That's the only thing he meant. I think he really mentions of like anything because he was like, I'm not sure why. Maybe I was like dropped on my head, or I think that might have happened. But yeah, it's like just he started the usual route you hear of starting small with animals and then moving his way up.
I just can't. So now he did say he feels like there were two personalities inside of him. He says he was able, the reason like his friends and family and people around him didn't know this other side was he felt like he had a split personality, essentially is what he's saying. And that the other side was his like sadomasochism, dark, like torturous sexual fantasies. You know, there's one side of like just kink, and then there's like a whole nother side of like what he took it to. And it's not even like the sado stuff, like it's even going further than that, where it's like, no, like I don't want to like do this for fun and read role play tomorrow. I want you to be dead by then.
Oh yeah, well I mean, because that's the thing, because I know there's some that try to like take it in the wrong direction. It's like there's a difference between, there are people who have kink of fantasies, of violent fantasies, but they know there's the reality in the fantasy, and not to take it past that fantasy, not to bring it into reality or anything. Right. And he needs to decide, oh no, this is not good enough. The fantasy is not good. I have to actually do it.
Well, that's what I guess I don't get is like, it to me, it wasn't just like sadomasochism or like sexual fantasies, in my opinion. Because if that were the case, he would have found a spouse or someone that he could reenact that with. He was literally looking for strangers to kill.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't know if he thought, he didn't think there was he was just too weird, it was too dark, and he just figured that he had to release it somehow, and that was apparently his way of thinking. And it's like, what?
Well, the other strange part of this, though, is that he's known for wearing, like, female masks, and they were creepy masks, by the way. They weren't, like, I mean, I know this is, like, 60s, 70s, 80s, but still, they were damn creepy masks. And he he would dress in women's clothes, and he would essentially have, like, negotiations with himself as, like, one female and then, like, the male side of him. And that's, like, not even role play to me. Like, you're doing it with yourself. Like, I don't understand. So, but in his mind, if he thinks he literally had a split personality, he's having full-blown conversations with himself. And it in a way, it reminds me of Ted Bundy, because there were several occasions in negotiations with Ted Bundy, and even when he was confessing to murders, that Ted Bundy said, like, there is me, who is, like, the lawyer, attorney student, college student, professional student, handsome young man, but there is a demon that resides in me, and when that demon takes over, I can't stop it. I can't control it. So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that's some of it. I wonder if that's more when they're trying to justify their actions, that it's not. It's essentially the devil made me do it. It wasn't me. It's this other personality. It's this other darker side. I can't control it. I can't.
But BTK didn't say it was like the devil made him do it. He just was like, yeah, this other personality it's what it enjoys, and I can't stop it. Like, he was like very like nonchalant, like, yeah, this is just what it is. Where Ted Bundy, I do think he had a little bit more like shame in it. But once again, you're looking at split personalities. Is it like, you know, it's no longer called schizophrenia. It's now called dissociative identity disorder, which basically means you can have split personalities or more than one personality. Or, like I've said before, sometimes with bipolar, if you get a manic episode, which is what I think Ted Bundy was, you get a manic episode if you're a very violent bipolar 1, which that does exist. You like black out, you don't know what you're doing, you get like a lot of courage, a huge adrenaline rush, it's like a high, you're getting like all this serotonin released, your brain is like releasing chemicals at like a high speed pace, and you can't control it. And then like, I think that's when Ted Bundy would get this anger, and it would take him over, and he would kill these women and like chop their head off. And like,
he would have,
yeah, exactly. And that was what I think is the bipolar side. Now, do I think BTK was bipolar? No, I do think he may have had dissociative identity disorder, though, especially if he's dressing in women's clothes.
Well, the only problem with the dissociative identity disorder is usually that as far as I know, because it's still a lot of research, and it's not quite as clear on the total about it. or how it works. But as far as I know, usually it comes about due to some sort of trauma. Some trauma in the brain compartmentalizes and tries to basically keep itself safe by separating, like either creating another personality or just separating itself from the trauma. And as far as we know, he never said, I experienced this kind of trauma, which created this personality or created this identity to cope with it.
Thank you for the bits, Nikita. We appreciate you. Sorry, someone cheered for us.
Yay! Unless he is saying that he created this, or he allowed this personality to come through that is his way to cope with this darkness that he was trying to battle with, and that's where the split happens. But that's still I don't think it's not like it's a absolute something takes over and he has absolutely no control of it. It is in full control. It is still him.
So I have a family member that has dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
I don't want to say who it is because I've never disclosed that before because I respect my family's wishes to not be public on their lives. This person that has dissociative identity disorder in my family chooses not to be medicated, which is free will. I mean, and this person lives in my opinion, pure hell because they are comfortable living with multiple personalities. They're older, so they grew up in a time where mental health wasn't a positive discussion. It's not something like you should take care of yourself. It's more of a, I don't want to go to the loony bin type of discussion when it's like, but if you could get medicated correctly, you would feel better. Imagine not having to hear those voices or hear hallucinations or everything around you. I'm not so sure if BTK is full dissociative identity disorder either, which is, I do think he could be split personality though. Because usually when you're disassociated, you have more than one, and it's definitely due to childhood trauma, which my family member that has it had severe childhood trauma. And they were like left alone for days as like a 3-year-old. And what ends up happening is when you're 3 and you cannot fend for yourself, like my family member was, severe neglect, not even abuse. It doesn't even have to be abuse. It doesn't have to be molestation or anything like that. It's just severe neglect. What ends up happening is your brain is so underdeveloped that the brain's a crazy organ, guys. Like it starts developing and doing things to try to repair itself. So you have this little 3-year-old that's having just horrendous trauma, being left alone for days without anybody, without help with food, without help to go to the bathroom, not locked in a cage. It wasn't that kind of circumstance. They just had to fend for themselves at 3. And it's scary living by yourself in a huge home. And, as a child, you're already afraid of the monsters under the bed, but imagine having no adult to go to get help. And what ends up happening is the brain repairs itself by creating characters in your brain. And these people really identify them as actual human beings in their head. Like there's several human beings. So every time trauma happens, a new person is created in your brain. Now, that's severe childhood trauma. Did BTK go through trauma? Obviously not. There have been some rare instances where schizophrenia can be inherited, but it's more likely to happen when you're, like if you have both parents that have it, there's a chance you could get the gene because now it's been an altered gene in your DNA. Now, and both your parents had it, they had you, so it could happen. But in BTK's case, he didn't have that happen. But for him to be so dark and his 3 other brothers end up okay. And
it's one of those like, I guess that's honestly when people talk about serial killers and talk about true crime stuff, and it comes back to the psychology of like nature versus nurture, and where did it happen? Where was the click, or where did the switch happen, or where did he decide this would be a thing?
He is a rare breed, though, in my opinion, because with serial killers, and we can name off several others, obviously. John Wayne Gacy was abused by his dad, hit because he wanted to wear women's clothing. Nobody knows if he was cross-dressing, transgender, or just gay, but he couldn't be himself. So he was severely abused by his dad, so he reenacted that same abuse on children. I'm not saying that's okay, but that's how the brain psychologically works. It's amazing. And then you have Richard Ramirez, who witnessed a murder at a young age, had severe abuse. He reenacts that on his victims. He disrespects women, so there must have been some mommy issues going on there. And then you have BTK, and you're like, damn, dude, what happened? You're just a bad egg.
Oh, yeah. It's just, like you say, he's a rarity, and it's also, like I said, it's fascinating that he's just very, very matter-of-fact about it. He's like, yep. And he even, when you listen to the hours of testimony, he actually breaks it down, his own killings. He actually breaks it down to the textbook of, this is how a serial killer works, this is what I did, here's the steps I took and everything.
Which is so crazy because he grew up in Wichita, Kansas, I have family in Wichita, Kansas, Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. And it's just so strange because, like, I've been there so many times, and it's still very, like, small-town vibes. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing like Vegas. It's not like Vegas. Like, Vegas is big city, modernism, casinos, brothels are still here, and then you go to somewhere like that, and you're like, dang, like, this guy is in the middle of nowhere, like, doing this crazy shit to people, you know? So I can see why it shook up, you know, the town or even just the Midwest in general. So he has 3 brothers, Paul, Bill, and Jeff. And they all said they had very normal lives growing up. And like I said, one of them is still in total denial that he did pisses me off. Like, your brother testified on court stand and talked about what he did with these murders. Like, if you don't care about the women that were involved or, like, the parents of the kids, at least have some compassion that he murdered 2 children. And instead you're in utter denial that your brother could do that. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, the disrespect when he admitted to it.
Oh, yeah, he spoke fully, and it sounds like the guy's like, nope. And it's like, hey, you're going to deny it. There's no way around that.
I have a quote from his brother that I wanted to share. He said, I can't believe my brother did it. But if he did, may God have mercy on his soul. Yeah, he did, boo. He admitted it. Like,
came from the horse's mouth.
I know. So it's crazy to me. So I also watched a couple of interviews too. BTK has 2 daughters. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. Because I
go ahead.
His daughter that did an interview or had done a documentary about growing up with him and everything. And
she was shocked too. She's like, my mom had no idea. No one had a clue, like, what was going on.
That's the thing that still surprises me. Like, that, because he had souvenirs, he had photos, he had mementos. Now, granted, he probably kept them very much lock and key hidden away, and probably in such a way where it's like, this is dad's stuff, you don't touch dad's stuff. But it's still like, not a hint, not a clue, or just like, nothing? Really?
Well,
nothing?
The only thing I could think of is, I mean, he was born in the 40s. Like, his first murders were in the 60s. Then, like, you kind of skip a decade, go into, like, late 70s, 80s, when his, like, sexual fantasies start, like, popping back up again. And honestly, I still feel like that's a time where people are playing housewife a little bit.
Well, I think his first murders, I think, were before his marriage or just around his marriage. Yep. And then he had kids, and there was a lag, and then his next murder.
There was a lag? Okay, so there was a lag.
Well, no, that's the interesting part, where there is, like, blocks of time, because, like, you've seen with our serial killers, it's usually, like, every couple of months, or every 6 months, or every year, they have to reenact this fantasy in their head through a new murder. But he can go, like, almost half a decade with nothing.
So, from the horse's mouth again, he said, I harbor sadistic sexual fantasies about torturing, trapping helpless women, and then killing them. So, once again, it's not even, in my opinion, about the sex part. It's about, like, the killing part. And when he was on the stand talking about one of the women that he murdered, he had basically bound her, kept her bound, and then she was sort of like trying to like identify with her captor in a way of like, hey, don't kill me. Like I want to like be friends with you. And then she like asked him to go to the bathroom. He unbound her, let her go to the bathroom. And then she came out and was like, let's just get it over with. And he was like, okay. And then he just like, it's strange.
I mean, I think with one, he even sat with her and because she wanted to have a smoke, and they sat, had a smoke, talked, and then just proceeded after that. Very just like, yep, now we're going to do the thing. Because, yeah, a couple of them were like, because they thought he told them what he was going to do, and they thought that was it. You get it done. Because I think I even heard one interview they talked about saying, like, get it done over with so I can go call the cops. And then he...
And another thing, and I'm not going to go into gory details, and I'm not going to use certain words because we're not going to here. But, you know, he would dress up as a woman and wear a women's mask, and he was into something called autoerotic asphyxiation. It's basically where he chokes himself while he's doing the dirty with himself. Mm-hmm. And can you imagine, like, him passing out in women's clothes in a mask and, like, his wife walks in?
I mean, there's photos, like, there are Polaroid photos that he took of himself, like, dressed up, bound up, doing all that stuff.
Doing all that. Elfie's like, whatever, doing that stuff. Weirdo. It is.
It's like, I can't tell where the photos are, like, if they were in his basement or if they were somewhere else, because, yeah. How his wife never walked in on any of this, I have no idea.
See, I agree. Well, and they're talking about him having ropes and bindings, and they were ropes for his neck, ropes for his legs, ropes for his arms. That's not small stuff. And like, if you like, let's think about it. Okay, today if you want any erotica stuff, you go to Amazon.com, you get it shipped to you in 2 days. Back then, you would have had to really hunt that shit down and like find a store that had that specific stuff. Like, how was none of it found by his wife? Even like the ropes and the binds and stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, from the looks of most of the stuff he had, you could probably get at like a hardware store. Mm-hmm. So like if you hunt down at a hardware store, you can get the various different kinds of ropes and bindings and everything. And I could see where he probably kind of hid it because it sounded like he did security, he did maintenance, he did like hands-on stuff. Mm-hmm. So he probably could hide it with this material is just for maintenance or garage stuff or something because I'm just going to the hardware store. That's probably
that creeped me out. You think about that, him working as like a maintenance worker. Like, I mean, I just had construction workers in my house, you know, like you don't even know who people are that are coming in. Like, you think about that and you're like, and you have to get like the hole in your wall fixed. Like, you're innocently like trying to find, and he was probably scoping people out while he was doing work for them.
Oh, he even said himself that he would. He said he would stalk and troll people for like weeks. Like he would be very meticulous. He would watch them for weeks. He would watch their patterns. He would watch their goings in and out of their house and everything. And I think one of the big things, I guess, that caused fear when people started hearing about this is that he would first cut their phone line. Mm-hmm. And when they were still landlines, he would cut their phone line first before he even would either break into the house or he would come to the house.
And he was in court, like, nonchalant. Like, well, the first thing I always did was cut the phone line. Like, no shame.
Oh, yeah. Well, he even, like, posed as a phone repair guy. He told someone I can't remember which one it was, but he told them that, like, oh, I need to take a look at your wires or phone line or something in your house. And he had the whole outfit. Apparently, he was able to get the whole outfits. That's the ones I want.
That is some methodical planning, man. Like, that's exhausting.
He even put together, like, tool bags of, like, this is what I need for this thing. And it sounds like almost like it'd be different every time. Where he'd, like, knives, guns, ropes, everything he needed. He would have a little tool bag of it.
His brain is messed up. So the murders were January 15th, 1974. 4 members of the Otero family were murdered in Wichita, Kansas. The victims were Joseph Otero, who was the dad, he was 38. Julie Otero, who was 33, which is the mom. Joseph Jr., who was 9. And Josephine, wow, that's a lot of Josephines and Josephs. And Josephine was 11. Their bodies were discovered by the oldest children who had been at school at the time of the killings. Well, bless their heart. Imagine they're still living and with all this trauma. Their family died. It's so sad. So he was arrested in 2005. He is still alive. And he confessed to that murder. He was also one of those that liked to write letters to the police, and he liked to be like all cryptic.
Oh, yeah. No, he loved bragging to the media and to the police of what he did and everything. And like, actually, I had to look up when we first started this because I'm like, wait, is this guy still alive? And I looked down, like, I didn't realize he didn't get captured until 2005. I thought he was like captured in the 90s or something. And it's just, I lost my train of thought.
Well, because it's so dark. I mean,
I'm somewhere with this. I don't know where.
See, that's what happens when we start researching serial killers. You just go down like a really dark rabbit hole. No, you were talking about how all of these murders are happening, and then he finally got caught in 2005. You didn't know that he was still alive, and you're like, wow, he's still alive. 2005 is when he gets caught, so he's gone his whole life without being caught. Which is why his kids were so shocked that he was a part of this. Because they were like, he was always the perfect dad. People in town even described him as being normal, polite, and educated.
Well, I think his last murder that he actually did, because I guess he tried to take credit for a couple of them that ended up not being his, was like in 1991. And then he stopped for whatever reason. And then got captured in 2005 when he started taunting the police again for some reason. But I think somewhere in there, it was, I guess he was planning to start over again or start up again and everything, and they just caught him before he could do anything.
Well, he released a poem publicly, too, and it was called "Oh, Death to Nancy." You know, and this also goes into discussing about, like, serial killers, particularly Richard Ramirez, who was, like, literally watching himself on TV on, like, primetime news. Like, everyone was so excited that, like, the Night Stalker, it made him excited. It made him want to do more. So, honestly, I think we can definitely infinitely say and try to not make more mistakes like we've had from the past, which is the media publicizes these serial killers so much to, like, in their own head, they think they're a celebrity. And they're like, they're powerful. And like, ooh, like they gave me the name BTK, or like, ooh, they gave me the name Night Stalker. Like, ooh, like I'm powerful. Like I got my own nickname. And in somebody that's like in a sadistic brain, they're going to take it and run with it. And like, that's even like Richard Ramirez. Remember they said after that mayor of like San Francisco or San Diego, whichever it was, she released a bunch of information. And then Richard Ramirez went on like an extra killing spree over the next few weeks because he knew that they were hot on his trail. And he was like, it's like that catch and thrill, like game of excitement, adrenaline rush, which once again, for me, goes with like somewhat of a manic episode or something like that. Like you get all these like adrenaline rushes that you have all this energy and you don't know what to do with it. And like your sick brain is like, let's go freaking murder a bunch of people and break in their homes. So,
well, I think it falls into that idea. He really liked having power over people. He liked holding power. And so I think that's part of the reason why he liked saying that stuff to the police and to the media, because to him, it was a power trip of like, I'm still out. You can't get me, but I'm going to taunt you with all this information, and you can't really do anything about it. And he enjoyed power trips. Like he was big on that.
His final victim, which the rest of the women, there's other women that were involved, but his final victim was February 1st of 1991, and her name was Dolores, and she was actually murdered January 19th, but she wasn't found until February 1st.
Yeah, and they also, it was interesting how his victims were older, like the last ones were older compared to the ones he first had, which were much younger and everything. And I think that might have been just because he could overpower them easier, or it was easier to overpower them since they were older compared to, because he was not young men at that point.
I also think, and I'm a millennial, but I'm not the kind that racks other generations. I don't like people that do that. I don't fight with baby boomers. Like, I don't care. Like, I just think it's stupid. Because you have to remember, every generation has gone through different trauma. Like, we all have different trauma with how we grew up, you know? Like, my generation has been through, like, Iraq and Afghanistan war. Like, we have our own trauma, you know? Like, but my point is like, his generation of trauma, and that older generation didn't, especially women, is what I'm getting at, they weren't taught to fight back. Like, women empowerment, like, feminism movements wasn't a thing. And, like, you know, it's like a man comes into your house with a pistol, I would rip his eyeballs out. Like, I'm going to do whatever I can to, like, get away. Like, I'm going to go out kicking and screaming. I've said it before to, like, Kat, like, if anybody ever finds my body, just be like, wait till you see the guy that she got, because he's, like, in pieces as well. You know what I mean? Like, but in that generation, they were taught, like, and we're still coming out of that. How many times have you heard people on social media be like, why do women apologize all the time? And I'm guilty of it. You go to the store, you run into a guy. Oh, I'm sorry, even though he's the one that ran into you with his fat ass. But I'm the one apologizing because I'm a polite female. And I really think that's what contributed all these years, is like, you unlock your door, you live in the Midwest, you're trying to just have like a cozy, comfortable life. Somebody walks in with a gun. Oh, I can't fight back. Like, I've been taught by society, I'm not strong enough to take on a man, so I'm just going to sit here and take it, get raped, and, like, do what he says so that I don't get shot. But then you end up dying anyways. So I guess that's my point with why I would fight. But also, there weren't self-defense classes then.
I think it's not even having a gun. It sounded like he most of the time dressed as someone of authority. Someone who you would listen to take orders or something, or not take orders, but like, I'm coming here to do this, and you're like, okay, like you said, like the fear of, like, you had construction workers in your place, and they're just coming in, they're doing their thing, and they're saying, yep, we're doing this, this, and this. And if they're in a certain uniform, your brain doesn't go like, I should question this. More like, yep, you're doing this. So he sometimes didn't even need the gun. He just like, I'm coming here to fix this, work on this, or need to do this. And they're like, oh, okay. And it makes sense. It's even when you look at it, like, some people are like, well, why did he let him in? Well, he posed as an electrician and probably didn't give off any vibes of anything other than that.
And that's more proof of saying that in that time, it wasn't, I mean, nowadays, like, you know, the population has grown, societies have grown, you know, like Las Vegas, there's a few million people that live here, when that never used to be a thing, like back in the 60s and 70s. You're growing up in Midwest Wichita, there can't be a lot of people in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Why wouldn't you just trust somebody to walk in? Why wouldn't you trust to just leave your door unlocked? You know what I mean? Like, you've been taught, like, oh, it's small town, like, we're safe, no one would hurt us. And it sucks because nobody wants to prepare for their death or prepare for an assaultant, you know, to come in here and get ya. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to think about that. And it just, it's sad, and it's horrible. Honestly, I'm glad that I am a millennial and I grew up when I did.
Yeah, we keep doors locked, and like everything's locked. It's like, who are you? What do you want?
When I'm still expecting somebody, I like run and hide. Like, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. Like, the guy was, you know what I mean? Like, well, and I live in like a gated, guarded community 24/7. So like, I mean, I have extra security, but that's a lot of Vegas is like that. But, I mean, yeah, I would never, I told you, like, growing up with my aunt, she'd leave the door unlocked and the windows unlocked, and I'd be like, I mean, we're in Colorado suburbs, but damn, no.
I would never feel comfortable. I mean, like, even if I'm in the house, it's still locked up, just because, like, no, just no.
Well, my uncle was a veteran, and he owned a lot of guns, so I think that was in their brain of, like, oh, we're safe, he's a veteran, he owns guns. But still, they'd go to sleep with their doors unlocked and windows open, like, wide open.
Oh. No.
Like, I remember, like, we're just going to get to know Krystal for a second, okay? There'd be some nights Krystal would be a little drunk in my 20s, you know what I'm saying? And, like, I'd lose my keys or something, and I always knew I didn't have to call my aunt. I just show up, I walk in her door, no matter what time, and I go to the guest bedroom and sleep. Like, I just knew, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even need a key. But, like, looking back, like, that is so dangerous. Like, please don't do that. Like, literally, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so legal proceedings, February 28th, 2005. He was charged with 10 counts of murder. And he just started, you know, blabbing about what he did and like no shame whatsoever. So the ages of his victims: Joseph Otero, 39, Julia, 33, Joseph Jr. was 9 years old. That's horrible. The 9-year-old was suffocated with a plastic bag. What kind of monster are you to like, what gives you the right to play God, to think you can take someone else's life, you know? Like, I wish he'd meet his maker. The other kid, Josephine, female, she was 11. She was hanged by a rope, an 11-year-old child. What kind of demon does that? Like, I'm sorry, but I mean, you have to be pretty dark to take an innocent child and do that to them.
Took her down in the basement, did that, and just, that to me was just like next level, like, yeah.
I'm shocked he's still alive in prison, because they don't like children that are murdered. You know what I mean? Like, they do not, because they have grandchildren, nieces, nephews. Like, yeah, I was a drug dealer. Yeah, I killed somebody, but like, I wouldn't harm a child. So I'm shocked he's still alive.
No, they put him in solitary confinement basically for that thing, because they knew if they let him out in the general populace, he would not last long.
No, he wouldn't. Another one he killed was a 21-year-old named Catherine. She was stabbed 3 times in the abdomen. Shirley was 24. She was strangled to death by a rope. Nancy was 25. She was strangled by a belt. Maureen was strangled with his hands. Vicky was 28 years old. She was strangled with a nylon stocking, so I'm assuming her pantyhose. And Dolores was 62, a little 62-year-old. Come on. Strangled with pantyhose.
I think she was a close neighbor, too. She was like a few houses down. Like, this is what I find unusual, too, is the fact that this is all within his like, within his, not neighborhood, but town. Like, this is very close to him. And that seems even unusual to me, because I would think that usually they go like out of their way, so it's not even close to where they actually live. And but this is like people he's run into. Some of them he knew, some he's talked to, he interact with on some level, whether it was when he decides stalking them or just day-to-day stuff.
And BTK stands for bind them, torture them, and kill them. And once again, that's not kinky sex to me. If you're trying to, your ultimate thing is to like kill somebody. He tries to put, like, he's done other interviews where he's tried to, what's the word I'm looking for? Tried to get understanding and acceptance from like the sadomasochism community, which is people that like to do like the dirty thing in the bedroom. But, like, those people don't murder people. There's a distinct difference.
No. Yeah, that's the problem. It's like, there's that big difference between the fantasy where it's 2 consenting adults and a fantasy versus what he was doing, which is this, he went outside the fantasy where he wanted to make it reality, and that's a no.
It's a big problem.
Oh.
Okay, so another thing I wanted to go over is, like, they're starting to put together clues with different serial killers. So one thing they all have in common is they're smooth talking, but they're still, like, insecure in some ways, but they're really good at hiding that insecurity. This is sort of like saying Ted Bundy wore a mask. So, like, you know, it's crazy to me when Ted Bundy's, the movie came out with Zac Efron, everybody on social media was like, why did you make Ted Bundy look hot? Okay, he may not be hot to us in this generation, but, like, I gave the example on a YouTube video. In the 80s, like, the guys were, like, the metalheads. They had, like, the big, like, curly, like, you know, metal hair, and, like, mullets were in style. And, like, and you imagine seeing this clean-cut guy, and you're like, wow, there's, like, finally somebody that doesn't have, like, the 80s hair thing going on. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I think they did a great job. A lot of the serial killers, they also have they're egocentric, and they have, like, visions of grandeur, like illusion, which is, like, I'm going to tie her up and kill her type of thing. Another one is they always lack remorse and guilt, which definitely I saw that with BTK. Did you?
Oh yeah, even though when he made the effort to try to seem like he did, is more like, yeah, you I don't think you quite, it's not connecting. I don't think you actually feel the remorse, even though you're trying to project that you feel remorse. Like in his closing statements, he was trying to act like he felt bad when it's like, no, you don't.
No.
You don't feel bad about this.
Well, like I said, watching the interview, BTK, like, you know, the judge is asking him questions about, like, oh, what did you do this murder? What did you do this murder? And he's like, well, and he literally made that face expression, like, well, you know, it's going to sound bad to you, but it's what happened, and, like, I'm okay with this. So, well, this is what happened. And it's just very strange.
That expression sounds, that facial expression more like when someone asks, what did you have for lunch yesterday?
Well, tuna or something. Yeah, like murdered people. Yeah, it was so casual. It's just like, what?
Yeah,
like,
and the role playing, the playing the costumes he put, I think that was to him part of the mask, where he was able to probably be eloquent or project a certain authority vibe that he was able to get through. Because probably if he just came to the door dressed as he normally dressed, he probably wouldn't have been able to project authority to get into the house. So right. I think that's part of his mask.
They also say he has lack of empathy, which is obvious. You know, serial killers being able to hurt animals and kids is disgusting. They're deceitful and manipulative, and an example of that is obviously John Wayne Gacy. Going to children's parties, that's really sick. Shallow emotions, and they usually end up being kind of narcissistic. Because, I mean, if you think about it, every serial killer, they're doing it for their own pleasure. Whatever that guilty, dark pleasure is, they're doing it for themselves. That's like total narcissism.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's sociopath or psychopath. Like, one, they know it's wrong, but they don't care, and the other one doesn't realize it's wrong because they just don't have that capacity. I can't remember which is which. I always mix the two up.
Impulsive behaviors, obviously, if they're able to just take a human and kill him. Poor behavior controls, so they don't really know how to human, or like bad social cues. And a need for excitement, which is some sort of like weird adrenaline rush that happens. There's a lack of responsibility that's happening. And usually those early behavior problems show up in their childhood, which even with BTK, there were behavior problems that showed up even if he didn't have any other sort of issues. But another thing that usually comes up is antisocial behavior, which I don't really see that with BTK because everybody really thoroughly loved them. Thank you guys for the cheers, by the way.
No, he seemed like he was very much an extrovert in a lot of ways. I mean, he was a Cub Scout leader. He was worked part of his church. I mean, he did a lot of social things. He was not a recluse at all. Like, he did not do what people typically think a serial killer is, where it's like they keep to themselves and they hardly interact with anyone else.
So I have something funny though. Thank you guys for the bits. So the actual proper title that he was, the core reason of all of this was he was into autoerotic asphyxiation. I talked about that. I'm going to be honest and say I didn't know what it was. Like, I mean, Google it, but I'm not giving the definition on here, okay? Because I don't want my YouTube video to get banned later. But I Googled it because I innocently didn't know what it was. And the very first thing that comes up is no. The doctor, it literally says no, period. It says, there is no doctor-approved way to strangle yourself while doing the deed, is literally what it says. And I'm like, I didn't ask for a doctor's opinion. Like, I was just Googling what it was. Like, it's so funny. I actually Snapchatted that to Kat before the stream. She thought it was pretty funny. Okay, I want to quickly talk about Robert Verdella, and I didn't give any information on this to Eilfie because this was something I just randomly decided to bring up. I actually wanted to do this stream on Robert Verdella, but I got him mixed up with BTK, and that's fine. So I was like, I'm going to throw some stuff in here. The question was a couple weeks ago when I was on with Eilfie was, what is the scariest, darkest energy that I get from the museum? Was it the Dybbuk box? Is it Peggy's room, who's supposedly like a demon possessing a doll? You know, I think everyone was expecting me to say the Dybbuk box room or maybe like the demon house room. And yes, like those energies are there. Like I'm sure Eilfie, you feel the same. Is there a distinct difference between a demon energy versus a just angry, ugly human spirit? Do you think there's a difference in energy-wise?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I think too often we are more hit by a dark human energy that we mistake probably for something else. I think that's more likely the case. But yeah, I feel there's a difference.
I agree. And the demonic energy to me, I don't know how to word this. I think I get more upset with darker spiritual energy that are like human spirits because we are humans and we understand human emotions easier. So I tend to get more emotionally like affected by a dark human spirit than I do a demon. So like that's why I don't know, I've always shrugged off people like, oh my god, like what if it's a demon? Like I've been around that energy. Like, honestly, it's not what people think it is. How do you feel about it? I'm not saying they're bad. They're not bad. I'm not saying you should, like, go befriend a demon.
I think the dark energy stuff, I think it's much rarer to encounter. Mm-hmm. And especially a lot of the places where people feel that there is, I think they're more encountering dark human energy. Because, yeah, I think when we have that visceral reaction of, like, I don't want to be here or I want to run away, I think that's because we're encountering a person who is just, you don't want to be next to them, whether they have a physical body or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like when I've been in the demon house room I've been in there obviously a lot of times, not just a couple. And same with like the demon house, same with the Dybbuk box. Yeah, you know something's in there, obviously, like you can feel it, like you know, and it's like dark, like it's demonic, it's dark. But honestly, to me, it doesn't compare to Robert Verdella. That room messes me up. And honestly, even like Ed Gein's room, I know this is going to sound strange, but like Ed Gein was dark. Obviously, he was sort of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I've been around the cauldron that he stripped the skin from his victims. And that's pretty deep, you know, to be around something that is harboring that kind of energy. But honestly, like, I've said this before, and, like, Ed Gein is not scary, honest to God. Like, he's not. Like, he was a grave robber. He wasn't really, like, into, like, killing humans. Like, I'm not excusing him as a serial killer, but being around his energy, like, I think that's why he follows me home, because I see past the media image that people have built of him. Now, Robert Verdella, his room, that's a whole nother story. This guy, so if you don't know who Robert Burdell was, he did die October 8th of 1992. He was born January 31st of 1949. He was an American serial killer known as the Kansas City Butcher or the Collector. He kidnapped, raped, tortured, and murdered 6 men, which there's probably more. I think with serial killers, there's always more that they don't really know about. But he kidnapped these people between 1984 and 1987. He would keep these victims in captivity for up to 6 weeks and basically torture them before he finally killed them. He said that his darkest fantasies were becoming his reality. He couldn't be openly gay, so he did it sort of behind the curtain of like not letting anybody know. His final victim ended up sort of like grooming Robert Verdella into thinking that he was wanted to be in a relationship with him. So Robert Verdella ended up trusting the final victim, and then the final victim ended up getting free, and that was how Robert Verdella was caught. But so in the museum, I don't know how the items in there were obtained. I don't know. I don't want to know how they were obtained because I think they were like police evidence. But there's literally like the bed sheets of the victims that he murdered on the bed sheets, and they're still like soiled and bloodied.
Oh.
And he has like a little twin bed set up with that on there, and I mean it's like obviously very discolored because we're talking about this like 30 years ago or whatever. And then Robert Verdella also kept diaries, like very extensive diary entries of like all of his tortures. And he has all of the diaries in there on display. This room is effed up. Like, this room's effed up.
That had owned his darkness. Like, he embraced it and, like, dived headfirst into it.
Yeah, it's a bad room, in my opinion. Now, it's interesting because I don't get the same vibes. Okay, it's hard to explain because obviously the Kansas City Butcher, which is this guy, Robert Verdella, he had rape fantasies with men, and he was obviously gay and, like, couldn't be publicly gay, right? So that was where he was, like, feeling like he had to like torture people. Obviously, he probably had a messed up childhood. I haven't done a ton of background into him, but when I'm in there as a strong female, I'm not like attacked in that room per se, but it's this feeling of like, oh, you just like shouldn't be here. Like you're a strong female. Like you just need to get out. And like the longer I stay in that room, it makes him angry. Like it makes him very angry because he wants like I don't think he's crossed over at all, to be honest with you. Like I feel Robert Verdella 100% in that room. Once again, all of the rooms in the museum, I think the entities absolutely love the way it's been set up because it makes them feel very at home and comfortable. And so I've felt like some serious like of just, it's almost like someone's screaming at me in my head to like get out of the room. And not like my guides, but like him, like I don't want you in here. So honestly, that room, and it's all I felt very nauseous when I'm in that room too.
Oh, that sounds like he's in his element, he's in his space, and you're invading that space he doesn't like because you're obviously not his MO and everything that he would go for and whatnot. And I'm not surprised because, like, if you have all this stuff and you have all the energy of all the things he did there, of course he's just going to soaking it up and enjoying it because there are people coming there to give energy essentially when they interact with the space, and he's probably being like, yeah, I'm just going to chill here now.
There's also a video in that room on a small screen playing of his, it's like a 24-hour recording of his court hearing. And it just, so you just hear Robert, but like you walk in and Robert, you literally hear him and see him talking and like all his stuff's there and like the court case and like everything. So I mean, I don't know if it's because the items in that room are like so personal, but then you go in like Ed Gein's room, for example, and like I've had other people, like other girls Kat's gotten physically sick in that room where she's had to leave. She thought she was going to pass out. But, like, once again, like, I've been in that room so many times and around that energy, I get this feeling from Ed Gein, like, oh, my God, Krystal's back. You guys. What? Come on in. How have you been? Like, that's literally how it feels to me. But I'm also not afraid of his energy. Like, I'm sorry, Ed Gein, you were just a grave robber. You're not this, like, scary Texas Chainsaw Massacre person that, like, they made you out to be in the movies. Like, I'm not afraid of you because that's not who you really were. So I wish people would look at these people for what they were versus what Hollywood has made them out to be. Because Ed Gein's just not that tough, you know?
I think the problem is that would humanize them too much. And to me, honestly, like, I love horror movies. I love the scary movies and everything. And the serial killers, the real ones, like Ed Gein and everything, those ones sometimes to me are more creepy because these are people. These are humans that actually went out and did these things. This is not the fantasy of Hollywood and everything. And yeah, he, compared to Chainsaw Massacre, he was like, poor guy was broken. Like
Mama's boy.
This totally broke him, and like when she died, he just did not know what to do with themselves. He was just nope.
Well, even though like, I mean, I've been around the Charles Manson ashes photo too. Like there was artwork done using Charles Manson's ashes. And so there's like a section in the jail area that's just Charles Manson stuff. And even that doesn't give off the vibe. Like, I'm sorry, but like Charles Manson didn't do anything but like puppet everybody around. Like to me, like I see these people for who they are. He was kind of a weak ass, you know, like the only reason that Charles Manson got power is he found other people to like do the dirty work. And so I think when you look at these serial killers for what they are, they're like, damn, like, she's not, like, biting the bait. Like, she's not giving off energy that she's afraid of me. Because, like, I'm like, you're kind of not who you think you are.
Well, I think it sounds more like with, like, Manson, it'd be more like, because he liked to prey on people that he could easily just sweet talk into doing anything, like you said, and everything. He that was his ego trips, along with wanting to become a musician, I think. So when he's encountered someone that he can probably talk to, and you'd be like, yeah, whatever, and not go along with it, that he has nothing to work with at that point.
It's just I just think that if people were around the serial killer's energy, like I've been like in the museum so many times, and it doesn't take just one time, and when you go in there to fully experience it, I'm not saying go in without your bubble up, but you do have to sort of feel a little bit more reserved and natural to be able to like really feel the energy and understand what's going on. But once you get around these people and their energy, it's not what you would think it is. And I'm not saying to feel bad for a serial killer. I'm just saying to read their energy for what it is. Because even there's some John Wayne Gacy stuff in there too. And like, yeah, it was sick that he did that to kids. But you get around him and like you just feel like he has really sad, depressive energy. Like sad. Like he... I think in a way wanted to die at the hands of his father, and so he was doing it to other kids. I think he just hated his life and hated the way things were, and you just get a different perspective. But then you get other people that go in and they're like, oh my god, it's so scary, it's so horrible, and you're like, well, then that's the energy you're gonna read.
Well, that sounds like, it sounds like one of those.
I heard a voice in my office just now.
Oh no.
Yeah, great. It sounded like it was like I said that, and I was like, I heard this like deep man that was like, yeah. Great.
Oh dear. What I was gonna say, it sounds going to the spirits are back like, yeah, you go. When you go into music, it sounds like almost. I think the problem we usually have is when you go into these places, and I've seen clips of the museum here and there, what they allow.
Oh shit! Kat heard the voice.
Ooh,
great!
A lot of.
It was like in this ear, guys. Like, I mean, it was so loud, like it made me jump because like I thought someone was standing behind me, and you know that energy when you're investigating and like it's like a push. Where you're like it's like a gust of wind. That's how it felt, but it was like behind my ear. So like I knew it was gonna happen before it happened. It was one of those things. And then it was like someone's yelling in my ear. I was like, what the hell, yo? Can you just like have a seat for a minute? Let me finish the podcast for a second. Go ahead, Eilfie. So you're saying like regarding the energy of the serial killers. Sorry.
Okay, it sounds like someone else wants to have a word in about this. I throw their own 2 cents in.
Oh my god.
But what I was going to say with the museum, from what I've seen from the clips and whatnot, it's very front-loading visual, Gary, where like you go in, you're expecting, well, I'm going to go see serial killer trophies and strange photos and this and that and the other. So you're front-loaded already with the impression that you should be picking up on dark energy. Mm-hmm. So I think, like you said, you have to go there more than once to almost kind of like put blinders on to take away the front-loaded images that you're seeing and just focus on what's actually there instead of what you think should be there or expecting to be there.
I also think that I've been lucky being able to be in there for long periods of time because, you know, I guess maybe it's because I've been around energy so much my whole life and like investigating isn't scary, but honest to God, going in the Dybbuk box room, like I feel like that the 2 biggest rooms that are most anticipated are like the Dybbuk box and the demon house room. Honestly, I just find the Dybbuk box room beautiful. Like it sounds strange, but like it looks like hell in there. Like literally, like it looks like a pictorial image of what you would think hell would look like. And I'm not saying hell's beautiful and that's where I want to go. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the aesthetic is very pleasing. So there's something in there for sure. Like there's for sure something in there. But
I definitely chill box room just to see, because I agree. It's like when you're doing investigations, if you have a chance to be in a location for not just a few hours, but like returning or being there for a few days, you get to actually like climatize and settle into the energy and actually start feeling it instead of just getting your initial, I'm in a place I'm not sure about, or this is spooky, and just getting the gut reaction instead of actually just kind of melding into it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, and Demon House is different. That's also, like, if you're talking about demons and you're comparing those 3, which would be like Peggy the Doll to Demon House to Dybbuk, like they're not going to all feel the same way. The demon house is, the demon house puts you in a trance. That's how I'm going to explain it to you guys. If you go in that room, and it's happened to Kat too. It even happened to Chanel when she went there. I don't know what it is with the power of the demon house room, but it will trance you out. Like, you'll literally just be staring and you don't know how long you've been there. You forget you're standing there. You'll go to leave, you'll turn around and walk back in because you're so tranced by it. So that to me is more dangerous because it's sort of like drawing you in, you know? And that's more dangerous to me than like the Dybbuk box. Now, Peggy, which is like the demon that's inhabiting the doll, honestly, she's just like a sassy pants. Like, she is. Like, everyone's like, oh, don't piss her off or she'll give you a heart attack or whatever. And like, I've never disrespected her. I don't want to try to disrespect her. I don't want to find out what would happen if you did. But she just like runs her mouth. She cusses a lot through the spirit box. She'll tell you to F off. Like, she's just like, she's a sassy demon. Like, she just doesn't care. Like, she'll tell you how it is. Like, she doesn't like you in there, she'll tell you to leave. If she doesn't like you in there, I've been in there where she'll literally shut all of the lights off in the room. She's probably the most active spirit in there. But, like, I don't think she really leaves that room. Like, I think she also enjoys her, like, her habitat. You know what I mean? So...
No, it really does sound like each room, which sounds kind of jarring in a way, it's its own little habitat of horror of these spirits, and you're jumping from one to the other, and that probably does throw people off when they're moving from one room to the other, from like one habitat to the other.
So I just wanted to get that across to people because people have been asking me what my what I think is the darkest room. And people would assume I'm going to say something, you know, one of the demon rooms, but it's like, of course, I mean, I like to say I'm of the light side. I'm definitely more interested in the dark side because that's just who I am. But I repel the dark side really badly. So I must, like, if you're talking like energetically empathic way, if you're talking about me interacting with a dark energy, my light, I think, is like way too bright. Like, I don't know if that means I have a very strong spirit team on the other side, angels, whatever, protecting me, spirit guides. But like, when I try to investigate demonic activity, like, it doesn't really want anything to do with me. It will do stuff like throw stuff at me or like cuss at me. But like, now you have Chanel. Chanel was really into the dark side of things when she was with Ghost Girl Diaries. Man, she, like, attracted that shit like no other. Like, she could go have a full conversation with a demon and it would just chill with her. Where with me, it's like, I hate you, get out of my space. Like, which is why I'm assuming it's like my bright light is a little too much for them.
They're like, nope, we're done.
Yeah.
Nope,
and now Kat's like the total opposite. I'm so sorry, Kat. I'm laughing right now. She's like very bright light. Obviously, you guys can tell. Like, she's definitely like the baby witch of the crew. Hasn't been doing paranormal the longest. But the dark stuff loves Kat because she's like the baby witch, you know, and she doesn't want anything to do with it. And she's the kind that will run from it and it will follow her. You know what I mean?
It's like scare houses. She would be the one you would see in the middle of the group that all the scare actors would know. Go for that one. That one looks like scream the loudest. Hands
down, Kat is the Aaron Goodwin of the group. Like, hands down. Like, she'll scream and yell. She's cussed the ghosts out a few times. Like, get away from her. Like, she's hilarious. Like, her footage is hilarious. So if we can get another pilot done, she's pretty funny. Like, I think the first pilot, which you guys, you know, I'm gonna post it online and we'll do another chat about that later. But she was a little bit stiff, you know, because it was her first time really being on a film set and really doing it, and she's critiqued herself. I told her not to be so hard on herself. But I think if we get a second pilot down, oh my God, like, she's gonna be ready. She's comfortable. She knows what she's doing now. She has that practice under her belt. And she's funny. Like, Kat's hilarious to watch.
So a whole lot of is going to be involved for some investigations, probably.
Oh, man. It's so fun. Like, I'm the serious one where I'm like, shh, be quiet. Like, listen to what we're doing. And Kat's just like, we had some really bad activity on set. Like, I mean, it was rough. I got called a bitch in the pilot by a ghost. It didn't like me.
Oh.
Oh yeah, it was like in my face, and it was like, bitch. Like, you'll hear that in the pilot. Like, I got some good evidence, but
Good
but
reaction then.
we were in this bathroom, which is where all the activity was happening. And I asked Kat, I said, I just need you to bring me some, like, ghost gear. I need, like, a mel meter and, like, bring me some stuff over. She, like, scurries in there because she could feel it was bad. Like, it was dark energy. I'm not saying it was demonic, but it was some dark shit, you know? She scurries in there with the equipment, drops it off, and just takes off running out of the bathroom.
He nopes out there, like, yeah, I'm good. You.
She's like, bye, I'm not messing with this.
Why is it always in bathrooms? Like, come on, seriously.
I don't know, because we actually did not want to investigate in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because it was very small, and, like, the house we were investigating was actually, like, literally, like, I mean this actually. The house we were investigating was over an old copper mine, and it was sliding into the mine.
Oh, okay.
It was really safe, like 100%. And I did not like the bathroom because you could feel the floorboards sideways because it was actually sliding into the mine. And,
Ooh.
like, I told them, like, just don't take a lot of time in the bathroom, okay? Like, just, like, I'm scared we put too much weight on that side of the house. It's going to, like, slide backwards. So before we did anything, I actually picked up, like, the shower curtains and got everything out of the way before we investigated. And I think the reason that was such a hot spot in that location was because it was right by the mine.
Oh, yeah. If it sounds like almost it was, like, at the entrance and everything. That'd be perfect.
It was horrible. We actually had hellhounds show up, too.
Oh, wow.
And then the lady that owned it, I'm like 100% convinced she was an alien, Eilfie. I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
I mean, I know that sounds crazy. Like, have you ever met somebody? You're just like, damn, you're not human. Like, not even in the slightest.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Like, there's times when you're not sure what's pinging, but something's pinging, not right.
There's a red flag here, and it's very large, and I think you're a little green alien, so just take off your human skin and just give it to me as it is, you know what I mean? Like, that was how it was. It was bad. Like, she could not, like, you know how normal people will talk to each other face to face? She would literally speak to us and turned her back to us, and it was like like, that was the way she conversed wherever she was from. And she didn't mean it to be rude. And it wasn't, like, some people said, was she autistic? Was she, you know, like, was there a mental disability? No. Like, she was not being mean or rude. Like, it was like, for a second, she forgot to human.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some days where I forget the human, so.
That's a mood. That's a mood. But yeah, we were investigating. Actually, no, we weren't even investigating. I will share this part. We were in the house. And obviously, you know, when you have, 4 night vision cameras plus a crew, we have wires running in and out of the house. Like, you know how much investigation equipment is, like, everywhere. You have feet, yards of cable everywhere. Like, there's cables coming out your ears, like, literally. And so I have the crew setting up all of the cables. We haven't even started filming yet. We're not rolling. Mm-hmm. And we see crew members outside, like, leap into our SUV. Like, I'm talking, like, fight or flight. Like, I'm going to die if I don't get in the SUV.
Oh, okay.
And we're not even filming yet. And Kat, like, turns around, and I'm in the house with Chanel and Kat. Kat saw it happen. And she turns around and does this really creepy thing where she, like, slams the door shut and holds the door with her hand.
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
And her eyes are just, like, huge, you know what I mean? And it's nighttime, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, what are you doing? I said, don't close the door because, like, the crew is out there, that we're running cable. What are you doing? She's like, I don't think you want me to do that. I don't think you want me to open the door. And I was like, well, then I'm like, we were in a small town, there's, like, meth heads, like, weird stuff going on. I'm like, why are you not opening the door? And she was like, there's a huge pack of coyotes. Like, I've never seen coyotes this big in my life. Well,
Yeah, I'd be like,
we had so many cords, guys, running in and out of the front door because once again, we're filming. Like, we're getting ready for lights out. Like, we're filming. Like, we need this to go. We couldn't close the damn front door.
oh, I know what you mean.
It was, yeah, because there's so many cords, we couldn't close the door. So all of a sudden, Kat's holding the door with her hand. And of course, I'm thinking, like, they're not going to come up to the door. Like, coyotes don't come up to people.
Yeah, they avoid people.
Now, in the meantime, our crew is in the SUV texting us saying, holy shit, like, I've never seen coyotes this big. Like, they are dire wolf size. Like, there is, like, 10 of them. Close the door. And I'm like, I can't close the door. Like, the door was, like, cracked. I couldn't get it shut. So I literally go running towards Kat, throw myself against the door with her. I mean, like, literally, like, all of our body weight was on the door. They were outside of the door trying to shove the door open, which a coyote would never do that, ever.
No, that is very outside the norm.
And there was, like, a pack of 10 or 12 of them trying to push the door open. And our crew is texting us saying they have glowing eyes.
Okay.
And I was like, great, I'm pretty sure we're dealing with some hellhounds here. And I mean, they were there for like a while. So we did, and then I told Chanel to grab a camera and record. So she was already she was holding a camera. She'd already hit record. She set the camera on the table because it was such chaos and it was still running. The EMFs were so high from what I think was hellhounds. The visual cut out of the camera and you could only hear the audio.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I kind of want to hear that.
And then she's holding another camera, and the other camera is her scurrying, running around. So you can see like feet and shuffling, but the audio went out on that camera.
Oh, okay.
Is that crazy? Yeah, it was really bad. It was not funny. Like that was dangerous, and they were trying to get in the door, and it took us a while. Like, they waited outside in the SUV. They were locked in the SUV. And they waited for them to leave. They don't even know which direction they went. They just sort of, like, disappeared.
Yeah, that's very outside the norm because, as far as I know, at least now, granted, I've never encountered one, they avoid people as much as possible. As far as I know.
Well, then the lady was telling me, which this alien woman, okay, which I did not interview her, put her on camera because it was a nightmare. Like, we're not even going to go there. She only spoke one alien language, and it was not English, okay? Let's just leave it at that. She was, like, intergalactic, okay? And she said she had chickens, and she said no matter what she did, she had a chicken coop, she put up wire, she put up fencing, and that these things would still get in and take her chickens.
Oh, okay. What's with the farmhouse? What's with the grabbing of the farmhouse?
It was bad. It was really bad. And then the last day we were there was a drug deal gone bad next door, and we almost died that day too. It was fun. You know, when you go to these small towns, you never know what you're going to expect. You know what I mean?
No, that, honestly, I actually totally get this because there have been some cases I remember where it was not the paranormal you have to worry about. Honestly,
100%. It's not. It's hellhounds, aliens, and small town people. Particularly hellhounds.
Yeah. Like I said, I would love to hear the audio alone on that just because, like, that just is out of this world.
Oh, we got some good evidence, girl. Wait till you see it. I mean, we got everything's authentic. Some good shit. Well, Eilfie, thank you so much for being with me this week. I appreciate you being here and being patient with our weird audio going crazy earlier and not working out. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, and then next week we have Kat. So thank you, Eilfie, so much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, everyone.
I just wanted to have a little chat with you guys and let you know that I'm going to get some videos recorded tonight, and I'll get them up on YouTube hopefully this weekend. I know there wasn't an upload this week. I did watch the Cecil episode on Netflix. A lot of people wanted me to watch the docuseries. I did watch it. I have a lot of opinions on it, but that's going to be a whole nother video that I have to pre-film and edit for you guys. And it's very interesting. I still think Elisa was murdered. I'm going to be honest with you guys about that. I don't like some of the things that they tried to change they went to court, and it was like the latch was closed on the water tank, then it was open. I think there was a lot of inconsistencies. I still think she was murdered. But we'll chat about my different theories on that when I get around to it. And make sure you guys are following us on social media. Watch for a couple uploads this weekend. And as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Back from the dead.